all from God rather than speak for 10 minutes and it was all from Greg. So
Yeah.
if I'm quiet at times, I might be praying. Just get past the awkwardness. And I might take bunny trails too. I'm really bad about that, just so you guys know. It was funny, I don't know if you guys have ever felt like everything was going against you, but tonight I felt like everything was going against me. On the way here, I got stuck in all kinds of traffic. First mistake was using iMaps. Don't use iMaps, that's not of the Lord. It's the author of confusion. They told me to turn left into a lake and all kinds of other stuff. And it's funny, I still trusted it. I'm like, oh, Siri knows, maybe my car will turn into a submarine, We'll trust it, but really, it was funny because I was driving here and I was getting so frustrated because at this point, Cole told me it started at 6:30 and it's 6:30. And I'm on 77 North with about 2 miles of cars in front of me, the gas light's on. I was like, okay, well, you know what, Lord, you probably just don't want me there tonight. That's what it is. And, it's funny because I've heard messages where, the pastor would say, sometimes the Lord's been saying no, 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 and you just need to listen. And then the other pastor would be like, well, the Lord wants you to get past the obstacles. Well, which one is it? But
Yeah.
it's funny because earlier, I'd been driving before the traffic and the gas light and Siri being annoying. I'd been driving, and I was trying to do all the right things to bring in the presence of God, right? So I've got Misty Edwards blaring, and, I'm driving, and I'm, blessing every car that goes by. You get a blessing, you get a blessing, you get a blessing, I'm trying to do all the right Christian things, and I just couldn't feel God. And I was like, what is going on? And I was really getting more irritated because I love Jesus. I love feeling the Lord. I love feeling His presence. And fast forward, now I'm stuck in traffic, and finally it was really upsetting me. I was like, you know what, God, what are you trying to do right now? You couldn't have just told me to take a different direction. You couldn't have just, shown me, given me a sign, something. Yet I was just venting, I'm so annoyed. I've got the right to be angry. And he was like, Greg, I'm not after perfection. I'm after honesty. And at that moment, I felt the presence of God. And I hadn't earlier, when I had done all the right things, when I was blessing everyone, when I was praying in tongues on the way here, when I had the right worship music on, when I felt it, when I started confessing how I felt. When I told him I was angry. When I told him I was upset. And it's funny because I feel like this is a model that I wish we lived by more. I wish the church lived by more. Because for me, I felt more church here tonight. I felt more God here tonight than I have in a lot of services. And it's because there's something about a bunch of people coming to a random location and being raw before Him. You know what? We don't know what we're doing. We might not have it all figured out. But we're here. Here I am. Honesty, raw, just me. And I was just sitting here and I was feeling the presence of God stronger and stronger and stronger. And I just couldn't deny that He was here. Outside of a little Buffalo Wild Wings and Rings. What? I mean, this goes against the total protocol, the total stereotype of what church is. And I love it. But I had this just intriguing thought. I said, what would it look like if revival broke out right here? What would it look like if it was the Church of Acts right here, where people just came in the vicinity and they start getting touched by the presence of God. They come for wings and beer and they leave saved and Spirit-filled. What does that look like? And we might not be seeing it now, but are we willing to contend for that? Are we willing to stay with the vision, even though we might not see it now, even though they might not be out here now? But I just had this thought where I just saw this whole area and everyone's worshiping and coworkers start coming out and they're getting touched by the presence of God. And the owner comes out, he's getting touched by the presence of God, and everyone's getting wrecked. And no one knows why. We don't know what's going on. It's not because there's a pastor with a super divine message. It's just God. It's just raw Jesus. It's just honesty. It's just Holy Spirit. It's just Him moving. What if we let Him do His thing? But are we willing as a group of people to see that vision and believe in it? Are we willing to get on our hands and knees and intercede for that a few times a day? God, send revival to Wings and Rings. That's a ridiculous prayer, but what if it came true? What if it came true? What if people drove by and they, for some reason, all of a sudden made a sharp left, pulled in, and they said, I don't know why, but I'm here because I felt something. What does that look like? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that gets me so stirred up. That gets me so fired up, and that feels like God. That feels like church. I feel like a lot of times we get stuck in this framework that it has to be stuck within the four walls. And we go, and there's 3 worship songs, 2 praise songs, then we take an offering, then we hug and kiss a neighbor, then there's the announcement video, and it goes on, and then the pastor gets up and he's like, oh, make sure afterwards you go to the cafe and get a latte, make sure you pay Jay, because he's crazy, we don't even know where we hired him from, but do all this, and we get stuck in this structure. But can God move in structure? Because he's pretty wild. I've never seen revival break out in structure. I've usually seen it break out in settings like this. I've usually seen it break out in the craziest ways when there was no plan. When it was just a move of God. It was just people. It wasn't a bunch of people feeding off, a pastor who was trying to crop dust out his anointing to everyone. It was a bunch of people coming together. And it wasn't about who was up here and who was on the mic and who could talk and scream really loud. It was about a man. It was about a King of Kings. It was about a baby in a manger. It was about Yeshua. It was about Yahweh. What does that look like? Because I was feeling that I was here when it was at Froyo Place. I can't remember what it was called, and this is my first time being back in a while, so I'm not totally a part of this vision yet, but I know I want to be. Because sitting in here, I could feel a vision stirring, but I felt like what the Lord was asking us tonight is he was asking, are you willing to fight for this? Are you willing to come back week after week? What if you don't see it for the next 3 weeks? What if you don't see it for the next year? But what if one of the next great revivalists was at that bar drinking, and one day there was something that pulled him out? What does that look like? So I don't want to go on a whole lot longer, because like I said, I want God to move. I don't want my voice to move you. I want him to move you. But I want this to be a challenge to all of us tonight. What does revival outside of Wings and Wings looks like? What does that vision look like? What does it look like? And picture it and get stirred up. And I want this to be the type of thing, not where you come up right now, not where everyone rushes up right now and they're on their knees. I want this to be the thing where tonight you're going to bed and you can't shake this. You can't shake this feeling because you feel it stirring in you. I want you to go back, and then, that's when it matters then, that you get on your knees and you intercede before the Lord, and you ask him to break out at a Buffalo Wings restaurant. So you know what, I don't think I have much more, but I'm just going to pray. I'm going to bless us, and then I want to share one more story that happened this night. Father, I thank you that you moved tonight, and I thank you that you will continue to move. I thank you that your presence will continue to grow. And I just ask that you would manifest your presence here every single week. Would you make yourself known? I said people would get touched by you, that they would feel something out here, and they would feel you, and they would feel love they've been craving for years. Ask again, would you move? Amen. Yeah, I wanted to share one last story with you guys that happened to me a few weeks ago. I had been just walking outside my church, and I saw my mom talking to a couple, and there was one lady, she was in a wheelchair, and her husband was just standing next to him. So I went up to him, and I introduced myself to him, and the lady grabs my hand, and she just starts praying and prophesying over me. It's pretty cool. And when she was done praying, I felt the Lord kind of provoked me to lay hands on her and bless her. So I started praying for her, and she starts like convulsing. I mean, shaking violently. And she starts yelling, "There's fire in my feet! There's fire in my feet!" And I was like, "Oh, that's great." But she's screaming it, and it's echoing across the parking lot. And I felt the Lord telling me to give a word to her husband. So all I said is that, I feel like the Lord is honoring you for the humility you've walked in a really hard decision you made. And he just starts weeping. And I didn't know what was going on. She's screaming, "There's fire in his feet." He's weeping. All of a sudden he starts laughing. Then he's like hunched up on the ground. She's